Hey everyone, this is your host, Belltown Radley, with a podcast show update. From the day this episode was originally released to today, July 22nd, 2019, there has been a rebranding of the podcast for the better. Our show has received a lot of great feedback, and we appreciate everyone's support. In our desire to help more men with the life issues they face, Expert Advice for Men is expanding our show to men of all ages. Not just men 35 years and older, as you will hear in our first 3 podcast episodes. You will also see these changes to our website, social media platforms, and of course, our podcast moving forward. I made this decision because, quite frankly, in the beginning, guys, I was scared and intimidated. I was told by many people to start out with a small niche group, men 35 years and older, because who am I to compete with the established podcasts? Who am I to compete with the Joe Rogans, Tony Robbins, and Gary V's of the world? The reality, everyone, I believe in my content, I believe in my ideas, and I believe men of all ages can and will benefit from the message and information I have to share. The beautiful thing with being a startup, guys, I do not have the sponsor conflicts, production conflicts, conflicts with guests, or any other conflicts of interest that these larger, more established podcast hosts have to deal with. With feedback from you, our audience, I can create and deliver great content without the red tape those bigger podcast hosts have to deal with. So, if you like a Rocky Balboa story, David versus Goliath, or just enjoy cheering for the underdog at the end of the movie, give our podcast a listen. And if you enjoy our show, subscribe, rate, and write a positive comment. Your support means everything. Thank you.
Welcome. You are now tuned in to the Expert Advice for Men podcast. For more information, visit us at www.expertadviceformen.com. And here is your host, Belltown Radley.
Guys, before we start our episode, I want to thank everyone for all their support, likes, follows, and shares of the podcast. Many startups already know this, but the nice thing about being small is that it allows me to focus less on business and business expansion and more time focusing on delivering quality information to you guys. My goal for this podcast will always be to connect with my listeners and deliver the best guests possible. Not merely collecting mindless followers on Instagram or Facebook. I'm one of those people that believe when you deliver a great product with great content, the numbers will come naturally. And we've delivered on another great guest today. Our expert is Mike Panic, owner of Go Tattoo Removal in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Mike and his company are known nationally as the authority on tattoo removal services in the United States. A recent Unilad story featured one of Go Tattoo Removal's videos that presented a real-time laser tattoo removal session, and Mike's video garnered over 9 million views in a 24-hour period. With nearly 100,000 followers and subscribers across all his company's social media platforms, Go Tattoo Removal is known both nationally and internationally for their services. Not only will this episode give you all the information you need to make an informed decision regarding tattoo removal for yourself, Mike is truly a savant and an inspiring business owner. If you're an entrepreneur, you need to listen to this episode. Also, if you just enjoy those Dr. Pimple Popper-esque ASMR videos, you know, those type of videos that give you chills down the spine and are oddly satisfying to watch, make sure to add Go Tattoo Removal on your Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook. Go Tattoo Removal is everywhere. And the work Mike does, it's an art in itself. So enough already, Radley. Give me the good stuff. Guys, here is Mike Panic, owner of Go Tattoo Removal. So we've got Mike, guys, from Go Tattoo Removal in Allentown, PA. And Allentown, I've never been in that part of the country. It's about 60 miles away from Philly is what I hear.
Correct. We're about an hour northwest of Philadelphia. Allentown is the third largest city in Pennsylvania.
Oh, very cool. Now, I know we're going to be talking about tattoo removals here today, but what is the best cheesesteak sandwich in Philly? You got an opinion? I know there's Pat's and Geno's. They're all over TV. Are there any ones that the locals go to?
Everybody's going to give you a different answer. There's not a definitive one.
All right.
For me, it's the one that I'm closest to. I'm not a fanboy of one specific in general. I would say you should probably go to Pat's and Geno's if you've never been to Philly, just because what's trending really hard right now online is something called the Philly burrito for about the last year or so. That is Lorenzo's on South Street has been famous for their monstrosity of massive slices of pizza. You buy one of those, go up a half a block to Jim's Cheesesteaks, you get one of theirs, and then you wrap the pizza around the cheesesteak and eat it.
And that's the Philly burrito?
If you're trying for the gluttony trip, that's a great way to get it started.
That sounds like something after a late night out with the friends on a Friday, Saturday night.
Pretty much.
I'll write that down. So, guys, Mike here from Go Tattoo Removal, 13,000 plus followers on Instagram, and so much content on Facebook and YouTube, guys. Make sure you check it out. They're considered by many as the authority on tattoo removal in the United States. Now, this is a podcast for men 35 years and older. So first off, with each guest, full disclosure on age, if you don't mind.
I'm 40. I was born in 1979.
Excellent. I'm 42, so we're in our 40s. What is your background, Mike? How did you get into tattoo removals? Are you a tattoo artist also?
I was never a tattoo artist. I briefly worked a couple stints in my teenage years doing the counter at a couple different tattoo shops. I started getting tattooed in 1995. I'll let you do the math and figure out I was a little underage, but we'll let that one go for now. I pursued a career in IT, of all things. I was working as a low-level network administrator for a while and also freelancing as a photographer. And through all of that and some great friends, an opportunity came up for me to kind of work in corporate America in Manhattan. And I wasn't really cut out for it. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And after reliving a conversation I had in the back of my head with a friend of mine years prior, when I came back to Pennsylvania, I approached him about possibly starting a tattoo removal business. Again, off a whim of a conversation we had a few years prior. Him and I sat down, we had done some business planning and spent several months discussing it, all your generic things that you start out with a business as. Do people want it? What does it cost to do? What does it cost to operate? What's the ROI? What's the current competition? What's the marketplace? Is there room for growth? Is it sustainable? And then most importantly, does it actually work? We spent about 8 or 10 months doing this and then did a very soft launch and slowly opened up the business. And September will be my 7-year anniversary doing it.
7 years. Well, congratulations.
Thank
that's
you.
Awesome. And like I said, guys, I know this is a podcast, so it's audio, obviously, but check out Go Tattoo Removal's website, everybody. The before and afters, the videos, the actual process, it's amazing. It's very visual. I think even people who aren't even considering tattoo removal should follow and get a kick out of how it's done. It's almost artwork in itself, removing tattoos.
There is definitely a protocol to doing it. It's something that we are constantly trying to address and refine our protocols so that we're becoming better at it. Even 7 years in, there's always a little bit of change going on, and every tattoo is going to be a little bit different. Every client's going to be a little bit different.
Right. And let's go into the client. So with this podcast being directed toward men 35 years and older, and through our emails, I know you've talked about gentlemen who may not just necessarily want to remove their tattoo or have a tattoo they regret, but tell us about the most common clients that are going to your shop for your services.
I love this question because I'm long-winded with it, which works well for podcast replies.
Excellent.
The average client that's coming in is somebody who's grown tired of a tattoo for whatever reason. There's a huge number of variables in here. We've treated people from 18, and I believe our oldest client was 79 or 80, somewhere in that range. The reasons people get tattoos removed is as varied as there are sunsets. Everyone's going to be a little bit different. Generally speaking, I wear my company t-shirts in public a lot because I have a large stockpile of them. People ask, and the first assumption tends to be wedding bands, exes' names, wedding dates, or portraits, or something along those lines. The lower back tattoo one gets referenced a lot. The tribal armband circa early 90s gets referenced a lot, and things like that. And we definitely do those. They come in, but more so it's about people who are looking to change. The number of reasons you could be looking at are, like I said, varied, but they could be somebody was really interested in getting tattooed very early on. They acquired a lot of them and they just wanted to be tattooed. And now they're slowly running out of room and they're looking over 10, 15, 20 years of acquiring tattoos that they want something different. It's the same as changing the paintings in your house, the pictures on your walls, the carpet, the car you drive, in America, the person you're married to, that often changes.
Yeah.
So that's generally who's coming in here. So we'll see a lot of varied people coming through of all different backgrounds, of all different demographics, working all kinds of jobs. I've met some really, really interesting people over the last 7 years. Probably the biggest benefit of working in this industry is just the people you get to meet. It varies widely from people in the military who are air traffic controllers. I've met some clients who have flown in from other countries. One of my clients is a captain of a mega yacht for a billionaire. So things move all around and the clients come from pretty much everywhere. And what they're having changed, removed, or faded for cover-ups is as long as you could imagine.
Excellent. So with these consultations initially, there's no fees involved?
Correct. We'll do a consultation either over the phone, via email, or in our office. That's always free. The way our website was set up, as you mentioned before, there's a ton of content. And with not a lot of people still, even in 2019, knowing that we're doing this, that it's even possible as an industry, not just our business, we try to provide as much content online as humanly possible to help educate people so that we, in turn, as a business, are running as smart as possible. So we're not wasting our time on 15 or 20-minute phone calls when the information is readily available for somebody to digest, while they're in bed, before they go to bed, and they're researching this stuff or killing time on their lunch break at work. So we pove,ide a lot of that information online as best we possibly can.
Yeah, and it helped me doing my research. Now, you're correct. I'm just like the average person who've heard about tattoo removals. I wasn't sure how they're done. Now, you use a laser to remove the tattoos or lighten them. Could you please explain and elaborate on that?
Sure. The easiest way to explain it is when somebody gets tattooed, a needle is used to put ink in the second layer of their skin. And that ink contains pigment particles, and those particles are too big for your body to remove. So for all reasonable explanations, it sits in your skin the way a birthmark or a freckle would. You can't scrub it off the top, that is to say. Your body over time tries to remove it. It's just not very efficient at it. So what we do is use a laser. We fracture the pigment particles into small pieces. And at that point, your body's natural immune system can start to process that out over time. Generally, we're looking at about 8 or 10 weeks between treatments, and that will allow the fractured pigments particles to be removed. And then we can go back in and treat what hasn't been fractured in the past.
So are these lasers painful? You probably get that question a lot. Are they painful?
Yeah, that's one of the top 3 questions we get. The pain is tolerable but annoying. Most people will reference it as somewhere between a hot rubber band snapping repeatedly or bacon grease splattering on your skin. Luckily, most treatments are somewhere between about 30 seconds and a few minutes. We do use something called a cryochiller. It blows extremely cold air on the skin before, during, and after the treatment. It helps take some of the bite out of the treatment itself. Makes it a lot more tolerable to sit there and do the treatment. When the laser's done firing, when the treatments are done, the pain almost completely subsides. And at worst, it feels like a mild sunburn for a couple hours.
Oh, so I read on your website also, and this was news to me. There's several different formulas manufacturers use to make tattoo ink. So I'm assuming some are maybe heavier and more pigmentation, and the type of formula used can determine the rate of the tattoo that can be removed.
That is one of the many variables into how successful or how quickly any given tattoo will remove or how slowly it will react to treatments. The government, the best I understand it, classifies tattoo ink the same as they do makeup for women, meaning they don't really monitor it at all. So we don't know what's in most tattoo inks, and then putting it in is an art into itself, aside from the actual artwork. So there is a possibility of pre-existing scar tissue from when the tattoo was done. The location on the body plays a role in this, the quality of lifestyle the person lives, and their immune system. If you're severely overweight, you're eating Taco Bell 6 days a week, and you're drinking 2 liters of soda every day, you're going to have a less than great immune system. And that's, again, a contributing factor to what would slow this down. So these are all somewhat factors, none necessarily being bigger than another, that play into how quickly or slowly a tattoo will react to treatments.
So let's talk about treatment. So say you had that, we'll go for the example, the barbed wire tribal
Sure.
band. Ballpark, how many sessions would you take on average to remove or lighten a tattoo like that?
So to answer the question, I'm going to give you two specific answers. Most of our clients and the way we structure our business was to help tattoo artists themselves. So they can do cover-ups or reworks of tattoos, in which case between 2 and 5 treatments will typically be necessary to achieve enough fading so a new tattoo can be put in place with almost no compromise to that new artwork. If a client no longer wants a tattoo, it's generally going to take between 10 and 12 treatments on average over the course of approximately 3 years. So it is a very long, slow process. Again, we structured our business primarily working in a place that hasn't been really explored very hard up until recently. And that was working with tattoo artists, helping the tattoo industry, not against them, in the sense of we like tattoos. We're very pro tattoo. I just got tattooed again 7 months ago, and I started 23 years ago. So we're pro tattoo, but it does open up a lot of doors for things to be more easily covered without having to do complicated tattoos and heavy tattoos like koi fish or black roses or 8 balls or those typical types of cover-ups.
So when can a client expect to see visible results? Will they be able to see results after the first session? Say they may need 5 or 6. Will they see results in the first session?
Usually results will start to appear about 3 weeks after the first treatment. We're currently doing roughly 8 to 10 week intervals, depending on the client's skin type, the pigment that was used, how heavily saturated it is, the location on the body. But usually within about 3 weeks post-treatment, you'll start to see the ink break up and fading away.
And you said about 6 to 8 weeks between treatments is what you said? About 2
Closer
months?
to 8 to 10.
Oh, so 2 to 3 months. Okay, that makes sense. So is there a way to say you have a big art piece, but you just want a portion of it lightened for maybe a cover art, or you just don't want that portion? Can you do a treatment that is targeted?
Absolutely. There are a few limitations to how tiny we can get with specific areas, but that is a pretty common thing where a client has a piece of their tattoo that is either in the way of something else that wants to be added to it, or one of the largest areas of our demographic are people trying to join the military or law enforcement. For example, at the best of my understanding, the Marine Corps currently uses a V-neck t-shirt as part of their dress code requirement. Any visible tattoo outside of that V-neck t-shirt can't be there.
Oh, really?
So if the client has a tattoo on a chest and it's poking through about the size of a quarter, we'll remove just that quarter size piece so that person can then enlist in the military. Same goes for some local and state law enforcement as well for short sleeve, long sleeve shirts and things of that nature.
Wow, I never knew that. So this is great information. Now we got to get to the brass taxes. Of course, everybody's probably wondering: is it expensive? Does insurance pay for it? How much does an average session cost, and how long does it generally take?
Every clinic is going to price differently over a number of factors. The way we set our office up, it is a flat rate of $200 per treatment. With a few caveats, we can't do entire back pieces or full sleeves. Those are segmented, so each office visit of those segment would be $200. The time it takes to do this for most people is between 30 seconds and a few minutes of treatment time. The total office visit for most people is between 25 and 40 minutes. That includes the consultation and everything else that goes along with the first appointment as well. This is an elective procedure, so insurance does not cover it here in the United States.
So
worth noting on that as well, we do have a large number of people that are trying to join our armed forces or become law enforcement. They currently do not offer any reimbursement or any coverage of removal of tattoos in order to join.
That's good information. Now, what's involved with the aftercare? What's to be expected? Is there peeling like there is with tattoos being placed? Is there scarring involved?
Generally speaking, post-treatment will be a little bit of swelling, some minor irritation, some spreading redness, and a little discomfort. Because it's a non-invasive procedure, there's no blood like there is associated with getting tattooed. So the days of getting your arm tattooed and then sticking to your sheets at night, they're kind of gone. So healing tends to be much, much quicker. We have a couple of restrictions regarding swimming, being out in the heat. Summertime presents a slight problem for some of our clients that work outside or enjoy outside activities often. So we restrict that or we postpone their treatments. But generally speaking, it's going to feel like a mild sunburn for a couple of days. And within 4 to 6 days, most clients report they have no idea we even did the treatment. And then the body takes over. The immune system will start to process out that fractured pigment particle.
That's just amazing. So sounds like you see people from all over the country. And
when we opened up our initial target demographic was within about a 20 to 25-minute drive of our office. That was the circumference we were expecting. By month 3, people were already making 90-minute drives to the office, which kind of blew our mind. Where we are situated, there's not a lot of competition. This isn't like a gas station or a fast food restaurant, so there's not a lot of these around. Also, because of the way we structured the business working with tattoo shops, we instantly got a ton of referrals from them, from surrounding cities and surrounding states. Over the years, our reputation has grown to the point where now clients are making longer trips into our office, which is still mind-boggling. I'm thankful for somebody who's willing to take 20 minutes out of their day from the other side of town to drive over, much less my current record is 12 and a half hours. Somebody driving from Nashville. That's the current furthest driver. Had no idea who they were. They scheduled the appointment through our website. They just showed up for the appointment, and I looked at their driver's license and I was like, did you recently move here? And they said, no, we actually just got in 5 minutes ago. We left at 2:00 in the morning. That was kind of mind blowing. And then there's been a number of clients who are flying in from across the country and some from out of the country as well for a number of reasons. But again, I'm forever thankful for anybody who's willing to make a 20-minute drive. Beyond that is just, I'm super thankful and very grateful.
So if you had a friend, say myself, well, let me preface this too, because if my tattoo artist is listening, Colin, I'm not getting my tattoo arm sleeve removed, buddy. And I give a shout out to Baraka Naga in Seattle. But what would you say to somebody who can't make the flight out, who are still interested in tattoo removal? What would be their first steps you'd recommend them do in their city?
The first part of research should always be, what is the body of work and the quality of work that particular business is putting out? In my situation, I'm a firm believer of being extremely transparent with the work. So the captions that go along with our social media posts explain in some cases why tattoos are extremely difficult, or in other cases where we've had great success. So we don't just post straight before and after tattooed and not tattooed photos. We post the progress, and we post a lot of them. I always advise people who can't make it to my office to look at how long a business has been open, how long they've been doing the treatments, as a lot of places offer 4, 5, 7 different treatments with the process, with their business model. But also, are they their own photos? Were they provided by a laser manufacturer? Did they buy them from stock photo sites? Were they one tattooed photo that was then photoshopped to remove the actual image? So if something looks too good to be true, I would always advise somebody asks to see the photos that were taken of existing clients. And then beyond that, anything, again, that sounds too good to be true, there's never a 100% guarantee with tattoo removal. So if somebody is telling you that, they probably can't deliver on it. So ask them to quantify, what does that really mean? Does 98% good enough for most clients? Yeah, absolutely. But if you have a stickler and somebody says, hey, I want 100%, you told me 100%, I want to know what that means. And then the last part is, financially speaking, are they offering you a discount for multiple treatments? Does that fit your budget? If that doesn't fit your budget, what else could you do to maybe work around that? For example, we charge $200 a treatment. We roughly estimate 8 to 10 weeks between the first few treatments. If a client is a little nervous about the money, I will simply tell them, if you can put away $20 a week over 10 weeks, you can afford tattoo removal. If you can't, and you can put $10 a week over double that, that's what it'll take to do tattoo removal. We'll do your treatments every 20 weeks instead of every 10. If a clinic is hustling and pushing you to come back in at quicker intervals, chances are they're bootstrapped and they probably need money. So they're relying on you coming back at a sooner rate. One will almost always get better results with more time between treatments. Negligible between 12 and 20 for your first 1 or 2 treatments. But financially, that's going to play a massive role, as this is not a cheap procedure by any stretch of the imagination.
Right. It goes back to that old saying, you really do get what you pay for. And guys, when it comes to anything involving your body or health, do your research. It's nothing that you should just go out and do because it's the cheapest or the easiest. You get what you pay for, and quality counts. I've read also your Google reviews and it's all 5 stars, amazing. So continued success on your business. We're getting toward the end of our show. I appreciate your time, but we're going to segue into what we call the E4Q. These are 4 questions that we ask all our guests just to kind of get some insight about yourself on a personal level. So you ready for the E4Q?
Absolutely.
All right. So this is question number 1. Tell us a place you've traveled, Mike, or an adventure you've taken that you feel every man should experience once in their life?
So I have a complicated answer for this. Travel is something I'm extremely passionate about, but I don't believe it's the answer to everybody's kind of fix in life. As an example, I have a friend who hates to travel, but he loves racing motorcycles. So he literally drives every weekend, spends an obnoxious amount of money, and loves racing motorcycles, never wants to go anywhere other than the racetrack and maybe a lake to go fishing. Me personally, I've discovered travel later in life as I've had a little bit more freedom to do so. So I do it often, more than most people can. I would say hands down of the places I've been, Thailand and Cambodia in Southeast Asia was probably the most awakening and eye-opening experience that I've ever gone through. I also recommend if you can go to a place where English is not the native language, where it is not even the second language, or it's even harder to find somebody to do translations, that's going to open up your eyes to how other people live, both good and bad. I found that the barrier structure between languages, even using Google Translate on my phone in Thailand and Cambodia specifically, didn't always work so well. The translations don't work out so good, or they're not fast enough, or the data goes down and just doesn't work. So you end up with very rudimentary hand signs and moving, and you end up laughing really, really hard with the strangers that you meet. So with that being said, it's a long flight to get there from wherever you are, generally speaking, in the world, unless you're already in Asia or Southeast Asia. I also love Bryce Canyon in Utah. I think it's one of the most beautiful places in the United States. The solitude there, just the mass amount of openness and how beautiful, and the colors there are just otherworldly. It's completely beautiful. I think most men should get to Iceland before maybe 2024, in the next 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
Iceland. It's developing extremely quickly as ecotourism develops. I've been fortunate enough to be there 3 times, and every time I've been there in the last couple of years, I've seen changes for the worse as we move through this transition, as they're making a lot of their money off of tourism. So it's one of the most expensive places I've been in the world. It also looks like Mars when you drive around. And it's, again, one of those places where you really just get shocked around every single corner. And aside from that, I always recommend people walk around their downtown. If you live on the outskirts of whatever small town USA, big town USA, spend a day or two at every season and go downtown, because most New Yorkers, they never go to the Empire State Building. They're very rarely going to the Brooklyn Bridge. They're known as tourist traps. And there's a lot of beauty in there, and there's a lot of culture that goes on a lot of times in your own city. So you don't have to get on a plane. You don't have to get on a train. You don't have to spend a ton of money. Even going to 3 towns over, a 45-minute or an hour drive, and explore something local, you might find something there that you absolutely love.
I 100% agree. I'm one of those too that likes to do business locally, support local business. And Amazon is a Seattle thing here. But it's nice to go, even if I have to pay a little bit more, to the mom and pop shop down the street, support local business. I totally agree with that last sentiment. And pretty much everything you said there, I'm gonna have to rewind this and write some of that stuff down on the places to go visit. Now we'll go into question number 2. What is a skill you possess or you wish you possessed that you feel every man should have?
A skill that I possess that I think every man should have is the ability to have a generalized conversation with almost anybody. Beyond the weather and the sports scores, you should be at least somewhat well-read and up to current affairs, not necessarily just politics, but life in general, and kind of be aware of your situation and your surroundings, so that when you're at the barbershop and you're waiting to get your haircut, you can contribute something to that conversation. Going back to the travel, when you're on a train going from city to city through Europe, I don't recommend wearing headphones. Leave them open. Listen to the native tongue. You will often be surprised by the number of languages that are being spoken, and you can interject, perhaps help a fellow traveler out. Be kind of aware of what's going on both locally and globally, so you can contribute a little bit of conversation. As technology continues to move forward, and text messaging and WhatsApp and Skype sessions and things of that nature are continuously taking over, and digital is the new way, conversation's being lost. So I think the ability to have a good conversation is definitely a skill every man should have. One skill I wish I had in the realm of conversation is I wish I was fluent at least in Spanish, if not in a third language as well. I've tried in the past. I failed because I just simply didn't put enough time and effort into it. But I think being bilingual is helpful in just about every situation, regardless of where you live.
Most definitely. I'd like to go back to what you said also. I'm the same way. take off those headphones. It kind of is one of my pet peeves is when I'll go out to a beach or somewhere that I don't know, and everybody has their headphones on. Listen to the nature, listen to the people, listen to the culture in the background. They're going to blast their stereos and you're in the middle of a gorgeous forest. No, just enjoy the conversations, like you say. So, question number 3, is there an app on your phone that you use? Now, I asked this question because a lot of men in their 30s and 40s, they're kind of scared of technology. They're still in their Walkman ways and MP3 player ways. Is there an app on your phone that you use that you feel everybody should start using?
I have been a huge fan of Evernote for probably 8 years or so now, both on my phone and my computer. It has replaced so many different aspects of my life that makes it so much easier to do things without paper, without losing paper, without having to carry a pen around with me, that I think everybody should give it a shot. I also recommend watching a couple of YouTube videos on how to better use Evernote. You can clip web pages from your computer that will then show up on your phone. Sometimes I will be randomly searching through Instagram and an ad comes up for a company that I'm somewhat interested in. You click the link, it opens up inside of Instagram. Well, if you click the other link to message it to yourself or your friend, or you can email it to yourself for later, email's cluttered. I don't want to deal with my email anymore. I can actually save that link into my Evernote. It syncs to the app and I can address it later on throughout the day and move forward. I've even used it to make shopping lists because it has a checkbox functionality in it.
Okay.
One of the things I used to do when I was a freelancer many, many years ago is I kept a running to-do list of things I needed to do for projects I was working on. And then I relied on a secondary list of things I was waiting for my client to give back to me. Now, as an owner, I do the exact same thing with my staff. These are tasks that my staff need me to do. These are tasks that I'm waiting on my staff to do for me. And it gives me the ability to share them and then also collaborate with them. But beyond that, it holds me accountable to them and vice versa. So for me, Evernote has become unbelievably invaluable. It's known around the internet kind of as the recipe app, but it's so much more than that. One of the other really quick tips for it, any kind of meeting or interaction with somebody who they hand you a business card, when you're finished with that conversation, pull your phone out. In Evernote, you can take a photo of that specific business card. Evernote will geotag the location where you took it, and you can type in 4 or 5 quick words about what that meeting was about. It'll sync to your computer and it'll sync to your phone so that if you lose that business card or you forget why that business card was put in your jacket pocket or your back pocket, why do I have Tim Smith's business card from ABC Printing? Oh, that's right. He told me he could run a deal for me if I contact him in the next couple of days. He wants to collaborate. But Evernote helps you remind you of that stuff. And that's where the more people I meet, the less I'm able to retain specific information about them. But the business card trick had worked out amazingly well for me.
So Evernote, I'm downloading that right now. So this is going to be our last question for the day. So what piece of advice right now would your older self give to your younger self?
Ask more questions. I would say being stubborn and sort of set in certain ways has limited my ability to grow both as a human and as a business owner in fear of hearing things I didn't want to hear. So rather than hear the feedback from people I trusted who are going to give you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, I just didn't ask the questions. So if I could slow down and ask more questions about everything and clarity, that's probably what I'd recommend doing. I feel like, again, going back to this digital society, whenever we want to do something, there are YouTube channels and Patreon and Skillshare that you can teach yourself so many things through technology. But oftentimes, the best way to learn something is just by asking a friend who happens to do it or for their honest piece of advice. And there's probably a lot of advice that I left by the roadside by not asking questions.
That's awesome advice. So, Michael, this has been very, very enlightening, and thank you for your time. Now, guys, remember, follow Go Tattoo Removal on Instagram. And what is your website now, Mike?
GoTattooRemoval.com.
And you're also on YouTube, Facebook, and
we have a really large Pinterest following too.
So guys, check it out. It is amazing. The pictures are awesome. Not just like Mike said, the before and afters, but the during videos. It's almost like those people who are into like the Dr. Pimple Popper type. Even if you don't want to get your tattoo removed, it's
satisfying.
It's satisfying, very satisfying. Well,
we have a large following in the ASMR community, and that's some of our videos went really viral because of that. We have quite a lot of followers just who enjoy seeing the progress of it.
Mike, thank you again. We're going to be talking again in the future, hopefully soon.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
All right, excellent.
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Now, what you guys don't know, after we were finished, Mike and I spent a good 45 minutes talking about entrepreneurship, business ethics, and doing what's right for the customers. I'm definitely going to have Mike on another episode to share his business insights and give other guys our age inspiration to perhaps start their own businesses. So make sure to add Go Tattoo Removal on all your social media accounts. We'll post links in our description. Until next time, guys, go out there and make it happen.
Thank you for listening to the Expert Advice for Men podcast with your host, Belltown Radley. If you enjoyed our show, make sure to rate it 5 stars, leave a positive comment, and share it with your friends. Your support means everything. Until next time, this is the Expert Advice for Men podcast.